The first time my sister ever held a microphone, she was 6 years old and wearing a plastic tiara from a birthday party. She stood on a chair in our living room and announced that everyone in the room needed to listen to her because she was important. 28 years later, nothing had changed except the price tag. The ballroom at the Waterfront Grand smelled like champagne, perfume, and money that wanted to be noticed. Tall windows framed the dark water outside, and every table had a centerpiece that looked like it cost more than my monthly mortgage. The stage glowed under white spotlights. Behind it, a wall-sized screen looped Zenith Solutions branding with slow-motion footage of smiling employees in sleek glass buildings. I sat at a table near the back, close enough to see the speakers clearly, far enough to pretend I could disappear if I needed to. My dress was simple, navy, clean lines, the kind of outfit you choose when you do not want anyone to accuse you of trying too hard. My mother sat beside me, posture perfect, eyes scanning the room like she was counting who mattered. My father sat on her other side, shoulders slightly rounded, staring at the program booklet like it contained the answers to a test he did not study for. Across the table, Melissa looked like she had stepped out of a magazine spread titled Young Executive, Older Money. Her hair was glossy, her lipstick flawless, her smile calibrated. Ethan sat beside her in a dark suit that fit like a threat. He kept one hand on the stem of his water glass, the other resting lightly on Melissa's chair, as if he was reminding the room who had access to her. Melissa leaned toward me, her voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "So," she murmured, eyes bright with anticipation. "What are you doing now, Claire? Still doing that nonprofit thing?" I swallowed a mouthful of dry chicken. The catering at these events always looked impressive and tasted like compromise. I dabbed my lips with my napkin, buying myself a second. "I am working," I said. Melissa's laugh was soft and musical. It drew attention without seeming to demand it. "Yes, but I mean real work, like a career, like what I have." My mother made a small sound of agreement, the kind she used when Melissa spoke in public and Mom wanted her to feel supported. My father said nothing. His gaze stayed on the tablecloth like it was safer there. I let my eyes drift across the room. Gold nameplates, corporate sponsors, a sea of tailored suits and dresses with low backs and high confidence, the kind of crowd that treated success like a moral virtue. Then I saw the head table near the stage. Board members, executives, people whose faces appeared in business magazines and quarterly reports. I recognized the board chair immediately. Vivian Hart, silver haircut, blunt, expression sharp enough to slice glass. She was speaking with the chief executive officer, a man with the practiced smile of someone who had never had to wait in line for anything. Vivian's eyes flicked over the room, scanning, measuring. When her gaze landed on me, she did not smile. She nodded. It was small, quick, almost invisible, but my stomach tightened like a drawn string. My phone buzzed in my lap. I slid it out under the tablecloth and tilted the screen toward me. One new message. No emojis. No filler. Just the kind of sentence that made your pulse change rhythm. Asterisk, asterisk. Your seat is ready. They still do not know. Asterisk, asterisk. My thumb hovered over the screen. My skin felt too warm under the air conditioning. Across the table, Melissa was already turning in her chair, eager, checking the stage like a bride checking an aisle. A host stepped up to the microphone. The room quieted in waves, like a tide pulling back. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host announced, voice booming through the speakers, "thank you for joining us for Zenith Solutions' annual Leadership Gala. Tonight, we celebrate excellence, impact, and the leaders shaping our future." Applause rolled through the ballroom. Melissa clapped as if she had practiced it in front of a mirror. Ethan clapped politely, eyes moving, assessing. "And now," the host continued, "please welcome to the stage our newest Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships, Melissa Carter." My sister rose, like she had been waiting her whole life for this exact cue. She smoothed her dress, kissed my mother's cheek, squeezed Ethan's arm, then glided toward the stage with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. As she climbed the stairs, she paused, turning to face the crowd like a queen acknowledging her court. The applause swelled. Melissa took the microphone with both hands and smiled. "I just want to start by thanking my family," she said, voice honeyed and clear. My husband, Ethan, for believing in me, my parents for always supporting me, and my sister, Claire, well, she laughed lightly. The room chuckled with her, obediently, for showing me exactly what happens when you settle, she added. When you choose passion over ambition, when you decide you do not need to be impressive. My mother's smile froze, then returned, tighter. My father's jaw flexed once. Melissa tilted her head, eyes sparkling in the stage light. Claire, she said into the microphone, and the sound of my name echoed across the ballroom. Stand up. Tell everyone what you do. Tell them you are still doing that little charity job. I think it is important for people to see both paths. Every face turned toward my table. I felt the heat of their attention like a hand on my throat. I could hear the faint clink of someone setting down a fork, the murmur of whispers that tasted like judgment. I did not look at my mother. I did not look at my father. I looked at Melissa, standing under the lights, smiling like she was doing me a favor. Then I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped against the floor, loud in the sudden quiet. I stood, and as the room held its breath, I took one slow step toward the aisle, because I knew the next voice they were going to hear was mine. I did not rush toward the stage. That was the first thing people noticed. Most people, when called out like that, hurry. They apologize with their posture before they ever open their mouths. They shrink. They try to get it over with. I did none of that. I walked. Each step felt deliberate, heavy, grounded. The carpet muted the sound of my heels, but I could still feel the vibration of attention shifting. I passed tables where people leaned toward each other, whispering behind wine glasses. I saw curiosity, amusement, and something sharper, anticipation. Melissa watched me approach with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. She had expected embarrassment. She had expected me to stumble. She had expected a punchline. She had not expected calm. I stopped at the foot of the stage and looked up at her. For a second, the years collapsed into each other. I saw the girl who used to borrow my sweaters without asking, the teenager who cried in my room after her first breakup, the woman who learned early that applause was oxygen. Relax, she said softly, away from the microphone. It is just a joke. I looked at her, really looked. I know, I said. That was the truth. She had been joking my whole life. I climbed the steps. The light hit my face immediately, hotter than I expected, brighter. It washed the room into a blur, but I could still make out silhouettes. The head table, the board, Vivian Hart, hands folded, eyes sharp. The chief executive officer beside her, posture alert now, attention fully engaged. Melissa handed me the microphone like she was doing me a kindness. Go ahead, she said. Tell them. I took the microphone, but I did not speak yet. I turned. I let my gaze travel across the room. I saw my mother's tight smile. My father's hands clasped so hard his knuckles were pale. Ethan's expression had shifted from smug to calculating. Then I spoke. I used to work here, I said. The room stilled, just a fraction. At Zenith, I continued, years ago. Before this building, before the rebrand, before the mission statements were printed on recycled paper and framed in glass. A ripple of confusion moved through the audience. Melissa frowned slightly, like someone hearing a familiar song played in the wrong key. I was an analyst, I said. Data modeling, risk projections, long-term sustainability metrics. I worked on a framework that helped this company pivot during its first major expansion. I paused. I was told it was not leadership material. A few heads tilted. Someone at the back stopped chewing. I left, I said, quietly. No lawsuit, no exit interview drama. I was tired, and I was told I should be grateful for the experience. Melissa let out a small laugh into her own microphone. Wow, this is getting heavy. I glanced at her, then back at the room. After I left, I said, I did something unfashionable. I worked, I learned, I invested carefully. I did not chase titles. I chased systems. I did not explain how many nights I spent staring at spreadsheets until my eyes burned. I did not explain how I turned consulting fees into seed money, how I learned the language of equity because I could not afford ignorance. I did not explain the first holding company, or the second, or how anonymity can be a shield if you use it correctly. I did not say any of that, because I did not need to. 3 years ago, I said, when Zenith faced a liquidity crisis tied to its international compliance review, a private capital group stepped in. Now Vivian Hart smiled. Just barely. That group, I continued, was mine. The sound that moved through the room was not loud. It was worse. It was a collective intake of breath, the kind people make when they realize they have been standing on thin ice. Melissa's smile collapsed. That is not funny, she said, a little too loudly. It is not meant to be, Vivian said from her seat, voice calm and precise. Every head turned. Vivian stood. She did not need a microphone. The room leaned toward her automatically. Claire Anderson, she said, using my full name, is the managing partner of North Shore Holdings. Through that entity and its subsidiaries, she holds a controlling interest in Zenith Solutions. Silence. Not awkward silence. Not confused silence. The kind of silence that follows impact. Melissa's face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. Ethan stood halfway, then sat back down, eyes darting. My mother made a sound that might have been my name. My father stared at me like he was seeing a ghost he did not believe in. The chief executive officer cleared his throat. Claire has been instrumental, he said carefully, in stabilizing the company during a critical period. She declined public recognition at the time. I met Melissa's eyes. She looked small now, not physically, psychologically, like someone who had built their identity on a stage that had just disappeared beneath them. This promotion, Vivian continued, exists because the Strategic Partnerships Division survived restructuring. That survival was funded, approved, signed. She turned toward me. By her. Melissa's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You did this behind my back, she said. Her voice cracked, sharp and high. You let me stand up here. You humiliated me. I leaned toward the microphone. No, I said. You invited me. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Someone near the front dropped a pen. It rolled, loud, in the quiet. You could not have known, Melissa said desperately. You never said anything. You always acted like you were better than this. Above it, I almost smiled. I was busy, I said. Running it. Vivian glanced at her watch. There is more, she said. Melissa turned toward her, eyes wide now. What do you mean, more? Vivian gestured toward the screen behind us. Claire, she said, would you like to explain the audit findings? Or should I? I looked at the screen, at the file name already queued. I looked back at Melissa, who was shaking her head before I had even said a word. Do not, she whispered. Please. The room waited. I inhaled once. Then I nodded. And the screen lit up. The first slide did not have charts. That was intentional. It was an email, black text on a white background. Date, time, sender, recipient, Melissa Carter. The subject line glowed against the screen like a bruise you could not cover. Asterisk, asterisk, final deck, just move my name to the top, asterisk, asterisk. A low murmur rolled through the ballroom. Melissa stepped toward the screen as if proximity could undo what was already projected. That is out of context, she said quickly. That was internal. Everyone does that. I kept my voice steady, calm, almost gentle. Scroll, I said. The next slide appeared. Another email, then another, time-stamped threads, version histories, file metadata, a pattern so clean it was almost elegant. In each chain, the same thing happened. A junior analyst built the work. Melissa entered late. Her name replaced theirs. Credit reassigned. Praise accepted. The room shifted from curiosity to discomfort. Vivian Hart did not look surprised. She looked vindicated. You told the board, Melissa said, turning toward me now, eyes wild, that I built those partnerships. You vouched for me. I vouched for the division, I said, not the mythology. Ethan stood up fully this time. This is a breach, he said sharply. You cannot ambush an employee like this in public. Vivian's gaze snapped to him. Sit down, Mr. Carter, she said. This is not a courtroom, and your wife is not the plaintiff. That landed hard. Melissa's hands shook. She grabbed the microphone again, voice cracking through the speakers. This is character assassination. You are doing this because you hate me, because you are jealous. I let that hang. Then I spoke into my microphone, soft enough that the room had to lean in. I did not come here to take anything from you, I said. I came here because you asked me to stand up. A few people inhaled sharply. You could have taken the promotion, I continued. You could have thanked your team. You could have left my name out of your mouth. But you wanted an audience. You wanted contrast. I turned slightly, addressing the room now. Here is the part that matters, I said. None of this was hidden. The internal audit flagged it months ago. The board delayed action because they wanted proof of pattern, not impulse. Vivian nodded once. The pattern is now complete, she said. Melissa's knees buckled. She reached for the podium to steady herself. What happens now? My mother whispered from the audience. I heard it anyway, Vivian answered without hesitation. Effective immediately, Melissa Carter is placed on administrative leave pending formal review. Her promotion is suspended. The words hit like glass shattering. Melissa let out a sound that was not quite a sob and not quite a scream. You cannot do this to me, she said, voice breaking. You are my sister. I looked at her, really looked. I said. Tonight, I am your employer. That was when the room fully understood. Security appeared at the edge of the ballroom, subtle but unmistakable. Not to escort her out. Not yet. Just enough to remind everyone that this was not a family argument anymore. This was governance. Vivian turned to me. Would you like to say anything else? I shook my head. No, I said. I have already said enough. I stepped back from the microphone and handed it to the host, who looked like he might faint. Applause did not come immediately. People were still processing the shift in gravity. Then, slowly, someone clapped. Then another. It was not thunderous. It was respectful, controlled, the kind of applause that acknowledged power without worshiping it. Melissa sank into a chair, face buried in her hands. Ethan hovered, whispering urgently, already calculating damage control. I walked off the stage. As I passed the head table, Vivian spoke quietly. You did not have to do it that cleanly. I did, I said, for myself. I did not look back at my family as I returned to my seat. I did not need to. The damage was done, and for the first time in my life, it was not done to me. I left before dessert, not because I was angry, not because I was shaken. I left because there was nothing left for me in that room. The ballroom buzzed behind me as I walked down the long hallway toward the exit. Voices rose and fell, already reshaping the story into something more comfortable. People always do that. They smooth sharp edges so they can sleep at night. My phone vibrated. Mom, I did not answer. Dad called next. Then a text. Asterisk, we need to talk. Asterisk, I slipped my phone into my coat pocket and pushed through the glass doors into the cold night air. The city smelled like rain and salt from the water. The lights from the ballroom reflected on the pavement, fractured and distant. Daniel was waiting by the car. He did not ask questions. He never did when I looked like this. He just opened his arms, and I stepped into them. The tension I had been holding in my shoulders finally loosened. You okay? He asked quietly. I am, I said, surprised to realize it was true. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the kind that does not need filling. I saw the live stream, he said eventually. You were calm. I was tired, I said. Of shrinking. He nodded. You did not humiliate her. I did not. I agreed. She did that herself. I just stopped covering for it. At home, the lights were low. Familiar. Safe. I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the couch. The adrenaline drained out of me all at once, leaving a heavy stillness behind. My phone buzzed again. Melissa. I stared at her name on the screen longer than I meant to. Finally, I answered. Her face appeared blotchy and red. Her makeup was gone. She looked smaller without the lights. How could you do that to me? She asked. No accusation now, just fear. I did not do it to you, I said. I stopped doing it for you. She shook her head. You let me build my life on a lie. No, I said gently. You built it. I just did not stop you. There was a long pause. You always thought you were better than me, she whispered. I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, not triumph, clarity. No, I said. I thought I was invisible. There is a difference. She started to cry then. Real tears, messy ones. I watched, quiet. I do not know who I am without all of that, she said. That part, I said, is not my responsibility. I ended the call before she could respond. Daniel sat beside me, his hand warm over mine. You took your name back tonight, he said. I thought about that. All those years of family dinners where I swallowed words, of achievements folded small so they would not threaten anyone, of being praised for being easy. I did, I said, and I am not giving it back. The next morning, the emails came, board follow ups, media inquiries, messages from cousins who suddenly remembered my birthday. I deleted most of them. Some doors close quietly, some slam. Either way, you do not stand in the doorway once you have stepped through. That afternoon, Vivian Hart sent one final message. Well handled. Power does not need to raise its voice. Asterisk, I smiled. Because for the first time, the silence around me did not feel like erasure. It felt like peace. And if you were sitting where I sat that night, watching someone finally reveal who they were to keep you small, tell me this honestly. Would you have stayed quiet to keep the peace? Or would you have stood up and taken your name back too? Chapter 5. The fallout did not come all at once. It came in waves. The first wave was professional. Zenith issued a carefully worded statement the next morning about internal review processes and commitment to ethical leadership. The market barely flinched. Investors like stability more than truth, and I made sure they got both. The board moved quickly, quietly. Melissa's access was revoked within 24 hours. Her name disappeared from the website by the end of the week. People assume moments like that feel victorious. They do not. They feel hollow at first, like stepping out of a storm and realizing your clothes are soaked through. The adrenaline fades. The silence rushes in, and suddenly you are alone with what you just burned down, even if it deserved to burn. The second wave was familial. My father showed up unannounced 3 days later. He stood in my doorway, holding a paper bag like an offering. Inside were pastries from the bakery I used to love in college. He remembered that much. At least, I did not know if you would let me in, he said. I am deciding, I replied, and stepped aside. He sat at my kitchen table, hands folded, eyes tired. Older than I remembered. He looked around the room like he was trying to map the life I built without him. You should have told us, he said finally. I leaned against the counter. Would it have changed anything? He opened his mouth, closed it. His shoulders sagged. We failed you, he said. The words looked heavy in his mouth, like he had not practiced them. You allowed it, I corrected. That is different. He nodded slowly. Your mother is struggling. I know, I said. She always struggles when the story changes. He flinched, just slightly. I am not asking you to forgive us, he said. I am asking if there is any place for us in your life now. The question hung between us, fragile and unfamiliar. There is a place, I said after a moment, but it is smaller, and it has boundaries. He swallowed. We will respect that. I believed he meant it. I did not know if he would keep it. The third wave was internal. That one surprised me the most. I found myself grieving in quiet, inconvenient moments. In the shower, in the car, standing in line for coffee. Not for what I lost, but for what I never had. A sister who did not see me as a threat. Parents who did not confuse peace with silence. Daniel noticed before I did. You are allowed to be sad, he said one night as we lay in bed, the city humming outside the window, even when you did the right thing. I know, I said. I just thought it would hurt less. He kissed my forehead. Power does not erase pain. It just gives you the choice to stop accepting it. A month later, Melissa sent a letter, not a text, not an email, a letter, handwritten. She did not apologize again. She had already done that, and apologies lose their weight when repeated too often. Instead, she wrote about therapy, about sitting in rooms where no one clapped, about realizing she did not know who she was without approval. I read it once, then I put it in a drawer. Some stories do not need endings right away. At Zenith, things stabilized, then improved. New leadership surfaced. Teams spoke more openly. Credit began landing where it belonged. Quiet competence rose faster than performative confidence. That was my real victory. Not the gala, not the microphone, not the look on Melissa's face. The culture shifted. One afternoon, a junior analyst knocked on my office door, eyes wide, hands shaking. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, "for the changes, for making it safer to speak." I smiled at her. "You already did the hard part," I said. "You showed up." She left standing taller than when she arrived. That night, Daniel and I cooked dinner together. No wine, no celebration, just music low in the background and the ordinary comfort of shared space. "I used to think being seen was the goal," I said, stirring a pot that smelled like garlic and home. "Now I think being free is." He leaned against the counter, watching me. "You are both." I thought about the girl at 6 years old with the plastic tiara, about the woman under the stage lights, about the long stretch in between where I learned to survive quietly. I did not need a microphone anymore. I had my name, my work, my life, and that was enough. So if you are reading this, wondering whether standing up is worth the cost, here is what I know now. Silence is expensive. Truth has an upfront fee. But once you pay it, you never owe anyone your smallness again.